Hey everybody, it is Corey from Thought Soldiers. So, I wanted to talk about, today I got a bunch of downloads. It was just one of those days where it's just rapid fire insight from my higher self, just as things going on with me recently. And then I talked to my friend Richie from Richie's Rainbow Ride, and then Amber from the Ascension Journals posted something, and it's all kind of correlating to the same common topic. And so I wanted to bring it up and share some of these channelings that I got in these little insights. So I apologize if it's a little scrambled. It's kind of a lot of just stuff that's been going on with me recently, and I really feel like more people could really connect and understand this. So about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago, a lot of us went through some pineal gland upgrades. And so, with these pineal gland upgrades, and then Richie posted a shadow unveiling activation. What happened was that shit worked. So a lot of us are seeing the reality of what we're living in, not only with ourselves, but in everything around us, and the connectedness of the nature. And really now, it's like, for me, it's very heavy. I actually have a lot of very heavy energy on me right now, just because of the level of insight of like what's going on. And there's a having to detach from this old paradigm to like really see what's going on. So the veil's very thin right now, and with these third eye activations, Mercury retrograde, and the full moon in 3 days, it's like, which is leading to tower moments. And I have to remind myself that tower moments of destruction are the root of creation. And let's remove the word destruction there, but moments of deconstruction is the root of creation. And so, I entitled this video, New Earth, New Eyes, New Eyes. So because we're seeing things differently now, and we're seeing things from a different perspective, seeing the truth behind a lot of things too, what's happening is we're now rediscovering our identity, which is us stepping back into our sovereignty and into our power. And the removal of external things to create the identity of this I am presence that we're living in. And this is what I'm going through right now. There's just it's a lot. And so as this shadow veil is being unveiled, we're also seeing motives behind people. We're seeing truths. We're seeing things for what they really are. And it's very painful. I, over the course of this weekend, have seen a few things of people that aren't like, I'm stating this out loud is because I have some people in my spectrum right now, and a few of us may be going through some things. It's not involved. It's old paradigm stuff that re-entered our realities. So for me, I had some old paradigm things that re-entered my reality, and I'm now seeing it with a new set of eyes. And it's leading to a level of like, whoa, with how disillusioned I was at that point in time, which then starts to make me question my reality right now. And so it's a big questioning period. What is this? What are these things? What are the motives behind these things? A lot of frenemy stuff popping up. Especially discovering a lot of frenemy, and I mean that meaning someone that presents themselves as a friend but secretly has some other motives. And I've been seeing this in my life recently, and I'm like, shit, man, like, it really makes me want to hermit and isolate. But it's cool because now I've got this connection, this more strengthened connection to my higher understanding, my higher wisdom, to be able to see these things right now. And now I'm really, really aware of discernment when it comes to letting energies in, letting people in, and learning to see past this, and also to not just take everything we see at face value, because there's two sides to every coin, and we need to respect that and honor that. So I'm just gonna share some of these channels that I wrote down. So detach from removal and attach to the adding to our own being. So as these things are being stripped away, and it's so funny how this correlates with the spring equinox. And so I look at the transition from winter to spring is that we're wearing lighter clothes now because there's more sunlight available. At least it depends on where you're at. Weather is all screwed up all over the United States. I don't know about anywhere else. I don't watch the news, but I know in San Diego it's been really screwed up. But when I think of the transition from winter to spring, I think of now I'm wearing lighter clothes, no longer having to wear the jackets. So it's a shedding time. And especially with the full moon coming in 3 days, of course, it's a time for purging. But I look at like the idea of a jacket is that the weather is cold and we are trapping heat in. So what's going on now is since we're removing this layer, it's time to expose ourselves to source and to let that warmth come in naturally, that internal light glow, that now no other external creation is going to be a part of us that is going to create that level of warmth. That level of warmth resides within and it resides from source. So it's more of now going back to source, going back to God, going back to things like that to heal these internal aspects, because external factors do not make our internal condition. It's inward, outward, not outward, inward. So if we want to change the outward, we do the inward work. So I know for me, I'm now asked to go back inside to do a level of healing, because the unveiling this shadow veil that has been lifted is also shadow aspects of myself. So we're now going into more shadow work. Yeah, it's okay though, because the way this works now is that these lessons and these understandings, suffering is no longer a part of this paradigm. This new paradigm still has pain. Pain is still an important factor for growth, but suffering no longer has to happen. So the cycles are quicker, the pain goes by faster, and the healing can really occur once we expose light onto all of this stuff. And so yeah, it's kind of a neat thing, but it's hard too, especially when these tower moments are occurring, and we're also we're closing the door on old chapters. I know for me, today was my last day at work, and that was really emotional. And then, stuff from this past weekend that I'm just been like looking at, and even aspects of myself that I'm having to look at now. But it's a beautiful thing, and this is where we have to detach from the removal and attach to the adding. The addition is that when there is a removal, something always takes its place. That's the way energy works. Energy is constantly flowing in and out of our lives. So the same thing is going to happen with circumstances. It's going to happen with friendships. It's going to happen with our belief system. It's going to happen with all sorts of energy. Energy is constantly flowing in and out. And the faster we ascend and the more that we heal, what will happen is as we're rising up, things are always going to fall out of resonance. And then new things fall into resonance. And it's just kind of this ebb and flow of like deconstruction, construction, deconstruction, construction, and it's just the way it is right now. It's the paradigm we're living in, and as soon as we learn to accept that is just a part of everything, we don't attach to that and don't attach to outcomes, the better we're off we're going to be. And so remember that when these things are happening at this realm, at this level, when this level of understanding is here, we're building up into higher dimensions, and this same level of building is occurring at another level. And so remember that when these changes are occurring here, it's also happening at a higher level. And so it's this law of correspondence is what came through. That what happens here is going to correspond in effectively. And also too, if we really want to change our external relationships, we change our internal condition, and then everything, the reflection adjusts accordingly, as a lot of us have grown to find. So that's what I see as the law of correspondence. Is like, instead of like having to adjust the things on the outside, we adjust the things on the inside, and the outside adjusts accordingly. So, yeah, a lot. So, once again, about the spring equinox, this is something I channeled, was that spring equinox is calling us to rip off our winter coats, which are like a Bandaid. It stings for a second, but it gets better. It reveals our raw nature that can now bask in the sunlight of forgiveness. Let Gaia heal us through this removal. Let divine source energy warm our hearts to the prosperity that lies in self-love and self-nurturing. The Bandaid is the role of the characters, not the characters themselves. So for me, there are people that came in and out of my life, and a lot of this is old cycle stuff that like popped back into play, and I had an ego projection of what their role was in my story. And when this truth got unveiled, I see for what it really is, and the learning lesson because of that. And because of that, I'm learning to let go of the expectation of the role of the characters in the play and the orchestration, and just accept the characters for what they are, and let their role show up in time, and not project what my expectation of the role is. And it's an old pattern I'm learning to break. Something I wanted to shed light on and share openly is because It's a real thing in my life. So I put, it's our expectation of the role that creates confusion, discord, and ultimately creates space for betrayal, disillusionment, and disappointment. So it's not, it's not so much, once again, this is an internal condition thing. The role of the character, their real role in this, isn't, and who they are, what they're doing, isn't what creates this. This is created within, because for me, I had expectations of certain roles that started, years ago. We're talking some back 10 years ago. Now, back to like 8-9 months ago. And I'm understanding what the lessons were from that. And I'm now having to let go of the identity of the role of the people in my spectrum right now and what I believe their role to be, and to really let go of that expectation and to let everything just kind of come together organically, and let the knowledge of what their part is and what the lessons are, let that occur naturally without me having to project this ego illusion of what they are, which can set an expectation, which will then create the confusion, the discord, and ultimately create space for betrayal, disillusionment, and disappointment. So, this is what happens in the leveling up too. So when we reach a point of spiritual evolution, when we get to a new level, and for me, I know I plateaued and I was about to leap onto a new path or leap onto this new level. And so every time I've leveled up in my spiritual journey, I look back at the last level and I go, damn, I saw everything completely wrong. And it's very it can be humiliating having to be like, I was wrong about all of that. But that's what this has been for me. Enlightenment has just been a constant unraveling of what I know to reach a new level, to then understand that everything I knew was completely wrong, and then unravel that belief. And it can be painful. Especially now, I'm really questioning everything around me, which is good, because this leads to discernment, having to be more cautious, and not be so like la da 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 da, and to be honest about what's going on in our lives, and that's where that healing and that expansion can occur, and that creation is because we're now seeing things for what it is, and not let me use an I statement here. I am seeing things for what they are currently, and no longer projecting what they could be or a fantasy reality, which can lead to disappointment. So as these things are, we're stripping things out of our lives. And so like for me, it's career. I had to strip a few friendships out of my life. Over the course of this weekend, I had to cut cords with a few people recently. So because of that, pops up a fear of abandonment, which is an old wound that I have, is an abandonment wound. And what I channeled was, fear of abandonment creates abandonment, as our higher selves never abandon us. We never abandon ourselves. That's coming from an old programming space of external validation as a constant of creation, when creation resides within our own being. Did we create the abandonment from our veils? So this sense of abandonment, did we create this from an old programming, an old paradigm, and an old way of seeing things? Because as we know, whenever energy is removed, another energy takes its place. Every time everything falls down around my reality, I'm always left with source, and my higher self is still there, and my guidance is still there. I'm still there with me. And so as we are losing things in the process, because once again, I believe there's never loss when it's always created. But this is a new learning lesson for me, is that when these things are falling away from our spectrum, make sure we don't lose ourselves, because that's what's beautiful, is that this abandonment, as long as we take care of ourselves, there is no abandonment. As long as we realize that our guidance is with us, and source, God, creation, whatever you want to call it, is with you, there's no abandonment. There isn't. It's just more learning lessons and more cycles from different characters. And that's what this whole story is. I have characters that entered my spectrum, 20 years ago that aren't here today. And there was no loss, because there was so much more gain from it. And so that switch in perspective of, instead of looking at the wound and the pain of the wound, look at the healing that's going to happen from a result of the wound. And this isn't to bypass the wound itself and bypass the pain of the wound, but to not let that magnify and amplify of the pain, because that's the suffering. It's not look at the pain, let's look at the healing. Switching perspective, transmutation when it comes to these things. Because the quicker we give that to Gaia, we push this out, we give it to Gaia, we release it, the faster the new energy will arrive that is going to be of a vibrational match for where we're at. And so, once again, that's what's going on. Also, too, a lot of us right now are going through judgments. So we're going through judgments from people in our spectrum because we may be sharing too much of our treasure, or they do not know our path. And so keep in mind that judgment from projections don't define who we are. They are placed upon those who don't know the words of our story. They're blind to the truth of our pages. So, once again, this is what can happen. I have a very close friend, I'm not going to mention names, well, a few people actually I know, that are going through heavy judgment periods right now from family, from friends, from coworkers, and once again, it's because when we get to this level of illumination, we're just a mirror. That's what happens. We shine so bright that we're just basically reflecting everything that they don't want to see within themselves. And so they will project that upon to us, and we can take that as judgment. But when you get to this level of understanding, no judgment can ever affect you because you know who you are in your core essence. And if someone doesn't want to take the time out to see your perspective or to get to know you well enough to understand your perspective, that's just the way it is. And so there's a lot of acceptance and letting go of that, which is really hard. Judgment is something that's very, it screws me up. Still does. I'm not perfect with it. But just remember that judgment is placed upon those who don't know the words of your story, and they're blind to the truth of your pages. And so honoring and knowing your truth and not letting those things affect you will help. And it's hard. I don't know. I still don't know how to do it 100% perfectly. But once again, this is where having to remove those obstacles that are keeping us from going inward and going within and seeking our truth and finding our understanding is what is really going to help in this expansion and in this creation with these new eyes we have. And the new eyes, which is the new I am presence, the discovery of more strengths, building more resilience, because every time that these tower moments happen, if you're going through a tower moment right now, all those learning lessons help to define the I am now presence, which helps us give us more power and more understanding of who we are, which is beautiful because we're all going home right now. We're all figuring out who we are. We're all walking alongside one another, and sometimes we'll look over and be like, hey, here's an aspect of you and here's an aspect of you, or sometimes we're a mirror of that person, or sometimes we're going through the same things, sometimes we're not, fall in and out. We're all just figuring out who we are so we can live our truth and step into our power and really unveil what our destiny is. So yeah, that's basically it. And right now is a big call. When these things are happening, what are we going to do? Are we going to fold or are we going to grow? We have a choice. We can consciously choose whether we're going to fold or we're going to grow. I choose to grow today. I choose to go, okay, yeah, I see that. I see I may have done that. I see that this person is this, whatever. I'm going to grow and keep moving forward. And this is where that fork in the road hits. It's like left to right, because I've been having a lot of this lately too. Should I go left? Should I go right? And a lot of unsurety. And sometimes the best decision you can make is no decision at all. Just keep walking forward and let things go. We don't have to exit down onto that path. So this level of insight brought to you by the upper chakras. And I want to mention that because a lot of masculines have been going through this lately. A lot of the masculines that I know that are awakened at this level, we've been living in our lower chakras because we had to anchor in this masculine energy into Gaia. And what happens is now there's a feminine energy that's coming about that is triggering the upper chakras to activate, which is also triggering more shadow stuff. Because I've heard a few people say this, that feminine energy, when it comes in, just a little drop, it is so pure that it just starts to rip open all these shadow aspects further for release. And while this releasing is occurring, I ask that we remind to go back to the breath. So yesterday I was doing a plant medicine class at a local yoga studio at Yoga with Shauna here in San Diego, and we got to go into meditation and meet eucalyptus. I got to talk a little bit with two different kinds of eucalyptus. But the thing that came about is the clarity that comes from breath, but also too the fact that when I started to really examine my breath, I'm never fully breathing. I'm never using the maximum potential of my lungs. And even when I'm exhaling, and I get to that resting point where I feel like I'm exhaled completely, there's always so much more air that could be let out. And this is that stale energy, that stagnant energy that lies within us. As we are releasing, it is time to breathe that prana back into us and that life force, and to fully let all of that stuff out, and take in these bigger breaths, because it's going to help with clearing a lot of these shadow aspects. And it's something that when you start to take those big, deep, like purposefully expanded breaths, we're programming our subconscious to breathe deeper. And the idea of breath too is a really huge form of understanding abundance, with the giving and taking. It's a natural part of our existence, giving and taking. Are we taking in everything we can, and are we giving out everything we can, to include stuck energy? So if you are clearing and this feminine energy has dropped some shadow aspects onto you, and you're like, oh shit, here's all this shadow. I ask that when you tune into your breath, breathe all the way out. Try it for a little bit, and then expand your lungs as much as you can. And if you're fully expanded with your lungs, imagine, can I expand more? Can I expand more? And all of this ties into this kind of like Zen teaching of enlightenment, and what we're going through is this expansion and releasing. And it's really speaking a lot of truth for me in my life, and what I could be doing more of. And more self-care, because I had things that I had put in my path as distractions from going within, because once again, there was still an aspect that wasn't whole within. And it gets upsetting, because I get to this point where I'm like, am I ever going to be whole? Because like I get to a level where I'm like, I'm whole, and then I'm like, oh, shadow aspect. And it's like, I'm at that point where I'm like, dude, am I ever going to be just cool with where I'm at? I don't know. Maybe sometimes being cool with ourselves is just knowing that we're not, old paradigm perfect, that we're flawed. And the beauty is in that flaws and in those scars. And if someone wants to point out your scars and point out every single one of your scars to you, it's because they're not looking at their own scars. So keep that in mind, or, this is what happens with my people that I'm ascending with, is that they notice their scars and they're like, yo, you still got some too. And that's really cool. It's like, it's truth. It's reality that we're all on a journey, and we're all trying to figure out where we're going to go, and we're all trying to go home. We're all trying to find out what we want, where we're at, and who we are. So yeah, that's all I got, guys. If you haven't, click subscribe. If you want to reach out, go ahead, shoot me an email, CoreyMacLite, LITE33@gmail.com. Also, my appointment calendar is completely different now. I've got earlier openings because I am now done with work. Today was my last day, so I'm full-time this. I've also got 30-minute Reiki sessions that are donation-based. So whatever you want to donate, 30-minute Reiki sessions, get on it. I also have my PayPal link in my appointment calendar now, because a lot of people are like, how do I donate? So I have that link provided in the description box as well. So guys, thank you so much for supporting me on my journey, and all the well wishes and all the great things and all the wonderful people I've met through this entire thing. I've met some really beautiful people that have taught me some really amazing things that have, just been really pure love and pure joy, and are really teaching me about my sovereignty and, who I am and who I can become. And there's been a lot of wonderful people that are shining examples of what this process can do to help us to grow and to expand and to really step into who we are, and to watch them change is beautiful. And I'm glad you guys are a part of this journey with me. So that's all I got. Much love and respect to all of you out in the Webiverse, and I'll see you on the other side. Namaste.